Hello all, I am Aditya and welcome to the second week of live sessions in problem solving through programming in C. First of all, I'd like to apologize for my audio not being there in the actual week 2 session. I don't know, there was some problem in encoding and decoding the audio because my software recorded that, but for some reason it didn't get recorded. So without any further ado, let's just start the session. So what did we cover in week 2? So we had more computing basics such as compilers and other things. Then we had an official introduction to the language, to C. And then we saw variables, so variable types like float, int, double, char and all, and how we name the variables, so how we name them, right? And then memory allocation, so how much memory or like space in our computer does each variable take. So like each int will take 2 bytes, float will take 4 bytes, double will take 8 bytes, like that, and bits, okay. And then address, so address and content. So when we store a memory, we can either refer to it by its content. So sorry, when we store a variable, we can either refer to it by its content or by its address, like where it is stored. So you might remember that rand symbol in scanf, so that refers to its address, so when you want to call it. And then we saw the basics of functions, like how do we write a function, how do we call a function. We'll do more on functions later in the upcoming weeks, so no need to stress on this that much. So let's look at the problems that we covered during the session. So we have this. So we have this code, and so yeah, I have the answer here already, but let me just explain this once more. So we have this code, and I want to know its output. So what is going on here? I say I first call the header file, right? So this .h is called the header file. That is why we have a .h, or it's also called. They are actually known as libraries, and since we start by writing them, they are known as also header files because they are at the heading, right? And then I have defined a function on spot called fun, and I've used this keyword hash define. Please remember the keyword is hash define, not define, right? It's hash define, like hash include. Include itself is not a keyword, okay. So and this function takes input as x, and it returns an output which is x square. And then I started the main one. So you know main, so you know the skeleton of a C program, we need the main function, right? Main is also a function, it's the main function like the name suggests. So yeah, we enter the main function, we define, or we define a variable I as a float, like it has decimal points. Then we do division here. So I set the value of I as 64 by fun3. So fun3 is basically what it's called. It's taking in 3 the function, and then it's returning 3 into 3. What is 3 into 3? 3 into 3 is 9. So this is basically 64 by 9. So if you do the math, we'll get 7.11. But that's not the answer, because 64 by default is considered an int, and even here 3 is an int, and I mean 3 is an int, 64 is an int. So if I try to divide that, it will give me the quotient of integer division, and it will only give me the quotient. So in this case the quotient is 7, right? Because So like I do 5 by 2. So 5 by 2 is 2, it's not 2.25, because both 5 and 2 are integers and I get an integer answer, right? But I want to print this as a float, so it will get saved as 7.000. I mean, how many ever zeros that is accommodated in 4 bits. Then when I want to print it, I use this percentage .2f. So this 2 signifies the number of decimal places, so I mean the number of digits after the decimal point, right? It's not minimum, it's not maximum, it is fixed. So yeah, so 2 means 2, not 1, not 3. And if I have a number before the point, so let's say I write here 3.2f, 3.2f. So 3 will be the minimum number of characters that I print, total characters, not characters, total number of digits, minimum number, okay. Width. So if I have, so I mean including the digits before and after the point. So how will I get 7.11 as the answer? So one thing I can do is I can just make 64.0 to make sure that my compiler reads this as a float and not an int, and then the division that will carry is just float division. So I'll get a value with decimal points, right? So that is the first task, the first problem. Yeah, second one is somewhat like the first one. I need output of this code, so I have same header file, then I have int main. I have, so now I have defined float a as 6.0 for, I mean, safer side, right? And then I have printf percentage .2f in quotes, of course, then I print this one. So 9 by 5 into a plus 11. So here also, like the last one, both 9 and 5, a might be a float, but both 9 and 5 are integers. So if I do 9 by 5, I will get 1, I will not get 1.8, okay. But if I do, so it is what, 9 by 5 is 1 plus 4, so 1 is the quotient and 4 is the remainder. I will get only the quotient, not the whole fractional answer, that is, I mean 9 by, that is 1.8, 9 by 5 is 1.8. So that is why 1 into 6 plus 11, I will get 17.00. So this 0.00 is because I have 0.2f. So how will I get, how can I make sure that I don't get 1 here, I get 1.8. So I can do one of the three things. I can use 9.0 by 5, 9 by 5.0, 9.0 by 5.0. So any one of the numerator or the denominator, if I make sure that it's a float, it's a floating point value, then the compiler will read the whole thing as float and then it will give me the answer as what I need. So I'll get 1.8 into 6 is 10.8, yes, 9 plus, yeah, 10.8 plus 11 is 21.8. So that is what I'll get. Now let's move on to the third thing for the day, that is variable name game, and I have to see that in this list which variable is valid and which variable is not valid. Okay, so let's go. So count is valid. Next is temperature, valid. So I would like the viewers here to just pause it here and then try to figure it out on your own. So it should not take you, so there are total 20 names here, so it should not take you more than 2 minutes, let's say, 6 seconds per this thing. So pause the video for 2 minutes and then you can just see if you're right or wrong, okay. Make a note somewhere that, yeah, so count is valid, temperature is valid, underscore value is valid, and 1, 2, 3 ABC is not valid because it starts with a digit, and as we know, it should start with an alphabet. My hyphen variable is not valid because it of course has a hyphen, and the only special character that we can use in a variable is underscore. So please keep that in mind. Float is not valid because float is a reserved keyword. Num underscore I or 1, I mean it's up to you, both are valid. First name is valid, total cost is valid, while also like float, while is a reserved keyword, so not valid. User count is valid, class is valid. So class is, if I were coding in C++ and not C, where I have classes and objects, their class might not be valid. Their class is not valid. Okay, but in C language, class is a valid keyword. My var is valid. My space variable is not valid because it of course contains a space. Student underscore age valid. Hash define is not valid. It is not valid because it has hash. If it were just define, it would be valid. And in my video, in my TrueR lecture where unfortunately my audio was not recorded, I have shown that these all are valid. I mean, define is valid. Okay, and but I would also like you to try it out on your own computers, because sometimes there might be some discrepancies compiler to compiler. So please keep that in mind. Then second value is not valid because it starts with 2. Break is not valid because break is a reserved keyword. You'll know what we do with break later. Variable dot name, it has a period, full stop, dot, whatever, not valid, special character. Underscore x is valid. So one more thing, some people had a doubt in the class that what happens when we start the name with a capital letter. That is valid. I mean, in my video it turned out to be valid, but I would like you to check that once more. So yeah, note, some compilers may not allow variable names to begin with anything other than a lowercase letter. So you have to be aware of it. And yeah, like I said, even class might not be allowed. So I retract this. Class is definitely allowed. Okay. Yeah, but still you can try it once and let me know. So then we covered these two problems. So first one was this thing. We had to write a program or a function that takes in the temperature in Kelvin and it gives me the output in Fahrenheit. So the conversion here is, so Kelvin, so temperature in Kelvin is temperature in Celsius or centigrade, both are same, plus 273.15. So water that becomes ice at 0 degree centigrade is same as 273.15 Kelvin. So with Fahrenheit and Celsius we use degree Fahrenheit and degree Celsius. With Kelvin we don't say that, we just say Kelvin. Okay, and in that video we saw that adding the AND is necessary when you pass variables in scanf. Okay, because you want to pass the address, not the value. Because if we just pass the value, then that value, so let's say my temperature Tk is 30 and it's stored at address 413, let's just say. But if I don't write AND, it will go to address 30 instead of address 413, and it will pull out the value that is there and perform the operation on it. So you will see that in that lecture when I incorrectly write that. Okay, when I incorrectly don't mention the AND, the ampersand, and you see what happens. I'll get spurious results. And then last problem or task was I have this thing. I have my input as initial velocity, time and acceleration, and I need output of final velocity and how much distance I have covered. So this also we have done in the class. I mean, just refer to that video for the code. I mean, of course, you first try it on your own and then refer to that video. So you can use these as sample inputs: 2 meters per second, 5 seconds, and 4.9 meters per second square, and you should get these outputs. Okay, so V is final velocity and S is the distance covered, or I can also say displacement, so it's up to me, doesn't really matter. And for people who don't know, I'll also mention the equations of motion. And yeah, in this previous slide, note that Fahrenheit works like this. So I've given both of them in terms of Celsius, so it's your job to combine them and get the relation between Kelvin and Fahrenheit. Okay, so yeah, here so the equations of motion here are V equals U plus A into T, S equals U plus UT plus half AT square, and V square equals U square plus 2AS. So of course here you don't need all three, because the first two are enough to get V and S. Or if you don't want to use the first one, you can first find S using U, A and T, then you can use this S to find V. So it's up to you, but you using the third one, you will have to unnecessarily take square roots and all, and I'm not sure if you know how to do that in the coding. So I would just suggest that you use the first two ones. Okay, thank you.